Welcome to the wonderful world of Victor Hugo and his garden here in Candie Gardens, St. Peter Port, Guernsey. Victor Hugo had quite perhaps a strange taste, shall we say, of his liking of plants. He loved weeds, he loved buttercups, bindweed, and actually we planted nettles here in the garden. But he really liked those wild plants, but as well, he loved these exotic flowers too. Not sure if this was his taste or not, this double daffodil, but what he really did love was, of course, the succulents and the agaves. He really adored those. But here, let me introduce you to Dinah Bott. She is the chairman of the Victor Hugo in Guernsey Society. And Dinah, remind me about why we decided what we would do here.
Once we had this really wonderful area which stretches all the way around behind Victor Hugo statues, it's a real fitting backdrop for Victor Hugo. Many people take pictures, many tourists and visitors. We had to think of what kind of theme we might have for this garden. We didn't want to recreate the wonderful garden that he himself made at Hopeville House, because Hopeville House is Victor Hugo. If you come to Guernsey and you want to know about Victor Hugo, you go there, and the garden itself is like another part of the house. So instead, we decided that we would choose plants which had names that might evoke some part of Victor Hugo's life, his philosophy, his family, so people could find out about it from the names of the plants, and also that we would have quotations from Victor Hugo, again, which people can look at and learn more about Victor Hugo that way.
And here is the man himself, the statue, this amazing statue of Victor Hugo looking out towards Herm and over to Jetto, and of course in the distance a little bit over to Sark, and beyond that of course is the Normandy coast and France, his homeland, and so it's so appropriate that here he is with this statue looking out over the islands of the bailiwick of Guernsey over towards France. Here we have an agave americana, and here we have succulents planted in the urns above the borders. This is the other agave americana on the other side of the steps now, and that's going to look magnificent in some years' time when it comes into flower. I hope it leans that way through. So Dinah, good to see you again. Here we are with this lovely little vegetable patch that we put in this border. Please remind me about Toilers of the Sea and why we decided to do this.
Victor Hugo's life and his work is absolutely full of gardens, and his Guernsey novel Toilers of the Sea, which he published in 1866, has its own special garden also. The central character, Gilliatt, who's a fisherman, falls in love with an unattainable girl whose name is Déruchette. And Déruchette has a garden which is surrounded by a low granite wall. Gilliatt finds a little space in the wall and spies on her, plays his bagpipes to her, and he sees her watering all her plants. She waters very specific plants, and we investigated these and we found that quite a lot of these plants that Victor Hugo mentions would have been the plants that he would have seen in simple people's Guernsey cottage gardens at the time. And there's a medicinal plants that sailors might have brought back from across the world. So we tried to evoke that with this garden. We couldn't, of course, build a granite wall. So Raymond sourced this really, really beautiful willow fence, which everybody who sees it absolutely loves. And we've got some heritage varieties of lettuce, cabbage. We've got a Guernsey lily in there. We've really tried to evoke Déruchette's garden and how important she's a medieval, almost a mystical figure. She's completely unattainable, and Gilliatt's like a sort of troubadour poet or a crusader knight. He's never going to get her.
Dinah, thanks. I just forget all those details. You're wonderful, and the research work, and you know these things inside out, is really fantastic. Another feature of the garden is the wild garden, or the neglected garden, because when Victor Hugo was young and he lived in Paris, he loved to visit this particular garden, which was derelict and full of weeds. So here we've tried to replicate that type of garden. I couldn't resist planting Clematis parisian, a plant that we bred here in Guernsey. It's starting to grow, not in flower yet. So Parisian, two Clematis parisian start this neglected wild garden that we've created. And here you can see we have a big old clay flower pot that is broken and fallen down here. And there's a herb robert and a collection of herb robert, which is a lovely dainty little Guernsey weed. In this area, my imagination was running away with this false a little bit, but I could just imagine there was really a big collection of clay flower pots, and they've all tumbled over. So here we put creeping buttercup to go amongst them, and that's going to look fantastic when the buttercups are really coming into flower. We've created these piles of logs because Victor Hugo just loved insects, he loved all things natural, and we hope there will gather together different insects and beetles there, and maybe even one day there will be a robin that will nest there, and that would be really fantastic. So welcome to the Victor Hugo garden. It is a wonderful world of Victor Hugo, and here it's placed in Candie Gardens in St. Peter Port. Candie Gardens are looking fantastic, and here at the moment they have all the marvellous early spring flowering plants and looking very colourful and very gorgeous. Thank you so much.